Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Undercover deck profile. Big thanks to my buddy Nick for letting me borrow his Undercover deck for the video. This is one of the other glitter decks, along with Shattered Glass that we got from the Dimensional Transcendence booster set. With this deck, the main focus is the very similar in structure setup that it has to the Revenger Shadow Paladins, and being able to use our Undercover Gauge as face down cards for the use of our order with our other Undercover cards as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the ride deck. We have the Energy Generator as usual to start us off, with our starter being Hidden Flash Undercover Serendis. When wrote upon, if you went second, draw a card. Our grade 1 is Volley of Blades Undercover Onyx. When placed by riding from Hidden Flash Undercover Serendis, reveal a grade 3 card with Mordalion and its card name from your ride deck, and search your deck for up to one Monitored Tryst. Reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. So Monitored Tryst is the order card, which we'll go over in just a bit for the deck. So just having an added search power for the set order that we use in the deck is a big help, along with the copy of the grade 2, which is Monitoring Ravener Undercover on Far. When placed by riding from Volley of Blades Undercover Onyx, reveal a grade 3 card with Mordalion and its card name from your ride deck. Search your deck for up to one Monitor Tryst. Reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. So you just have, two search options with your ride line for the needed order that you use in the deck, with our grade 3 being the Poison Knight of Silence Undercover Mordalion. We will get to the other copies of the card in the ride deck in just a bit. Before we get to the other grade 3, I figured we'd go over the actual set order itself, which is Monitored Tryst. When this card can be played from the drop, and play this card if you have a Vanguard Undercover and its card name. When this card is put into your order zone, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to one card from among them, put it face down as this card's Undercover Gauge, and shuffle the deck. So the Undercover Gauges are what we use for the setup for our main go-to grade 3, which we're also running 3 additional copies of for the Persona Ride Power, and that is the Poison Knight of Silence Undercover Mordalion. On Vanguard, during your turn, if your order zone has 3 or more Monitored Tryst, all your units with Undercover in their card name get plus 5,000 power. And on Vanguard, once per turn, Soul Blast 2, look at the top 7, it's not Soul Blast, it's Energy Blast 2. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to the same number of cards as the same number of Monitored Tryst without any Undercover Gauges in your order zone. From among them, put one face down as an Undercover Gauge on each Monitored Tryst without Undercover Gauges, and shuffle the deck. And on the Vanguard circle, when this unit attacks, Counterblast 1, choose up to 2 cards with Undercover in their card name from the Undercover Gauge and call them to rearguard in the same column. This card sets up those Undercover cards in your order zone to then be called out. So having those resources set up with the variety of Undercover Gauges that we have set up in our order zone just gives you more and more setup to use for this card as a multiple attack option in the deck also. For other grade 3s, we also run 4 copies of Knight of Blackness, your Undercover, Obscuridide. So, interesting part with the lore, this is the Obscuridide that you also have in the Eva deck. So, it's basically his Undercover form in this deck. From the Gauge zone, if this card's an Undercover Gauge, Soul Blast 1, call this card to a back row center rearguard. So, in this card, on rearguard, if you have a grade 3 or Vanguard with Undercover in its card name, this unit can attack from the back row center column, and it gets plus 10,000. So, this card will normally be on that back row center to be able to attack with. And on the rear guard, when this unit attacks from the back row center column, if you have a grade 3 or Vanguard with Undercover in its card name, your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, and no drive checks were performed this turn. For battle for your rear guard attack, Soul Blast 1, to the end of the battle, this unit performs a drive check and gets drive -1. So this is added pressure that our Vanguard sets up the rear guards, but having Obscuridide as a rear guard that can perform a drive check from the back row center gives us an additional attack to use, and a pressured one at that. And then we also run 4 copies of Knight of Piercing Acuity, Undercover Zwa. I would say having a majority of Undercover cards in this deck is very, very important, just so you have those power options, and needing the Undercover units under your Undercover Gauges to be able to call out as well. And with Knight of Piercing Activity Zwa, if your order zone has 2 or more Monitor Tryst, this unit gets plus 5,000 and cannot be retired by your opponent's card effects. Added protection, but also an added boost on top of the boost that your Vanguard will provide to these units as well, being a 23k power attack on its own. We're also running the 4 copies of Knight of Abruptness, Undercover Daira for our grade 2s. On when this unit's placed on rearguard, if you have a Vanguard with Undercover in its card name, or only Shadow Paladin for its clan, counter +1, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with Undercover in its card name, or only Shadow Paladin for the clan among them revealed, put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. It's search power, so very, very useful for that setup. And on rearguard, when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, if you have a Vanguard with Undercover in its card name for its clan, Soul Blast 1, and this unit gets plus 10,000 to end of power. So it makes it more viable to be able to hit those attacks as well. It's search power, it's set up a definite for the Undercover lineup that we have in the deck also. And then also 3 additional copies of the Undercover on Far that we rode additionally in the ride deck along with this card. Also, just having the additional rearguard option during your turn if your aura zone has 2 or more monitored trysts, which should be a guarantee with the ride deck being able to search out 2 copies at least from those cards. It gets plus 5,000 power. So just a 15k attacking rearguard, even more so if you have your setup with your Vanguard also. For the grade 1s, we run 3 additional copies of Undercover Nukes. During your turn, if your aura zone has 2 or more monitored trysts, it gets plus 200 plus 2,000 attack. So then it can be a 10k booster or a 10k attacking rearguard as well. And once again, just having Undercover for the majority of cards we will run in the deck also. We're also running 4 copies of Claw of Secret Schemes, Undercover Tigress. At the end of the battle, this unit boosted, Energy Blast 2, and return this card to the hand. And when this unit's put on the guard circle, put a card with Undercover in its card name from your drop on the bottom of the deck, and this unit gets plus 5 shield to the end of the battle. So it helps you recycle some of your cards from the drop zone as well, but also just needing a way to use our Energy Blast, additionally along with our Vanguard, to be able just to give us a grade 1 that can be bounced back from the rearguard circle to hand also. With the last of the grade 1s being the 1 copy of Jeweled Beast Topaz, having the putback power for the ride deck to give additional shield or rearguard calling power, and also the 4 copies of our Sentinel, which is Bringer of Protection Sethlon. If you wanted to run Elementaria Sanctitude, you could always drop a copy of this Sentinel for an additional spot for that card as well. For the trigger lineup, I have 6 critical for the spot for the Undercover cards and their added drive check pressure, along with the rear guards gaining additional power also. I wanted to run the 4 copies of the front trigger with the ability Alpac, and then the last spot along with this card having the 5k shield could be either some draw trigger power, or you can swap all the fronts for draw triggers and then the 1 additional front that we run as well for a 6 to 5 number count, with our heals being the 1 copy of Invigorate Sage, the 1 copy of Hardiness Tier Sorceress, and the 2 copies of Palpitation Angel for our heal lineup, with our overtrigger being the Amartanoa, just having rear guards that can attack, also for performing your rear guard attacks as well. And then also the additional unit power that perform drive checks can mean that if your rear guard attacks from the back row for your rear guard attacks, you don't even have to use its own skill. You'll just have a Obscure Die attack with Twin Drive from the back row also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Once again, big thanks to my buddy Nick for letting me borrow the deck for the video. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.